The first time she stepped out with the triplets, the entire town paused. 3 identical girls, their skin smooth like river stone, their eyes wide, watching the world as if they had lived before. They were dressed head to toe in red, blinding bold red. Red wrappers, red beads, red shoes, even their small headscarves were red. At first, people thought it was fashion. Maybe she simply loved the color. Maybe it was for attention. But when days turned into weeks and weeks into months, and still the children were only seen in red, questions began to rise. Some whispered, some mocked. Others were simply confused. Many were afraid. No one in the town of Oba-Ama had ever seen such a thing, and no one dared to ask directly except one. One hot Thursday morning at the stream, Mama Emma called out to Mama Chum, the mother of the triplets. "Is it that red is now the uniform in your house?" The woman turned slowly. Her face was calm, but her eyes had depth, not sad, not angry, just something that made you hesitate. "I do what I must," she said simply, and walked away, her 3 daughters trailing silently behind her like shadows. That day, the whisper spread wider. Blessing Mama Chum was not always like this. She had once been the most joyful bride in Oba-Ama. Married at 20, she was soft-spoken, respectful, and hopeful. Her husband, Obinna, was a trader, humble, hard-working, deeply in love with her. Their first year of marriage was filled with dreams. The second was filled with prayers. By the third, the silence in their compound grew too loud to ignore. Still no sign? Our mother-in-law asked one morning, pouring palm oil into her pot. Blessing shook her head. "We're still trying, Mama." Trying, the older woman muttered. "The kind of trying that leads to grey hair. Don't let your silence destroy my son's future." Blessing said nothing. She went into her room and cried into her wrapper. At family meetings, the whispers grew sharper. 3 years, not even a miscarriage. Obinna is still young, an uncle said. Let him try someone else before it's too late. At first, Obinna defended her. "She's my wife, we are praying." But little by little, the words of his family began to cut his heart small. By the 5th year, he stopped singing in the morning. He no longer played with her hair. He began to sleep early, facing the wall. Blessing watched him fade like smoke in the rain. She tried one last thing. She went to the city hospital for tests. The doctor said nothing was wrong. She told Obinna. He only nodded and said, "Okay." By the 6th year, the silence in the house became unbearable. His family had no patience left, and Obinna himself began to change. One evening, while she was cooking yam porridge, his mother stormed in. "You have eaten all your eggs," the older woman snapped. "How can a woman be in a man's house for 6 years and nothing, not even a miscarriage?" Blessing said nothing. She had said all she could before prayers, hospitals, prophets, herbal teas, fasting, still nothing. The next month, Obinna came home with words that shattered her chest. "My mother is bringing another woman." Blessing froze, knife in mid-air. "You will not be chased away," he added, "but you must accept her." She did not cry. She did not shout. She simply turned and looked at him. For the first time, she no longer saw her husband, only a stranger wearing his face. The following week, the new wife arrived. Her name was Oyoma. She was young, with bright eyes and a loud laugh. She called Obinna sweetheart in front of Blessing. She entered the kitchen without asking. She wore short wrappers and heavy perfume. 2 months later, her belly began to rise. "See how fast she catches seed," people said. An auntie visited Blessing and said, "This is how God works. When one tree is dry, another brings fruits." Blessing still said nothing. That night, she folded her wrapper, packed her clothes in one bag, removed the wedding picture from the wall, and placed it face down. She tied her hair and stepped out. Obinna sat in the parlor, watching the news. "I'm leaving," she said. He did not turn his head. "Okay." She walked out. The sky was grey, the air heavy with the smell of burnt dreams. At the gate, she whispered, "I will not stay where I am laughed at." She didn't look back. She walked the road to her father's house, the house with cracked walls and firewood smoke in the air. The place where her story began, and now the place where her story would change. Waiting inside was her stepmother, Mama Nena, the woman Blessing had always blamed for everything. That night, the house was quiet, but Blessing could not sleep. The walls creaked as if they remembered secrets. At dawn, Mama Nena knocked on her door. "Wake up," she said. "We need to talk." Blessing came out, her wrapper tied, her face swollen from sleep and pain. "Go and see a herbalist," Mama Nena said. Blessing blinked. "What?" "I said go and see someone. Not a doctor, not a pastor. Someone who understands beyond the body. There is more to this than the eyes can see." Blessing's face hardened. "No. You want to finish what you started? The same way you killed my mother and took her place in this house?" Mama Nena gasped. "What are you saying? You think I don't know? The way my mother died. The way you slid into her place like wind through a broken door." The old woman's eyes widened. "You think I killed your mother? Blessing, she died giving birth to you. I raised you. I fed you. I clothed you. You did it for my father, not for me." Blessing hissed, turned, and slammed her door. "I only go to pastors, not your black magic." Mama Nena stood trembling, her chest rising and falling, her eyes wet, but she said nothing more. That night, Blessing sat on her bed, arms folded, staring at the ceiling as if it could explain her pain. She didn't know her journey to freedom had already begun, but she was walking in the wrong direction. A year passed, long and empty. Then, one Sunday afternoon, she met a man. His name was Echona, a contractor from Enugu, building the new church near the town square. He was tall, soft-spoken, with calm eyes. Blessing met him at the market. She dropped an onion. He picked it up before she could. Their eyes met. His smile was gentle. "Are you from this town?" he asked. She nodded. After that, they began to meet often at the market, by the church, on the way to the stream. Echona never asked too much, never dug into her past, never looked at her belly. He simply said, "I want to know your heart, not your history." 6 months later, they were married. No noise, no crowd, just prayers, palm wine, and the blessings of both families. Blessing moved into his small but clean house, the walls smelling of fresh paint. For the first time in years, she smiled from her chest. 3 months passed, then 4. One morning, she woke up with a strange feeling. Her hands touched her belly, soft but different. At the clinic, the nurse confirmed it. "You are pregnant." Blessing sat frozen. Her hands trembled, her lips parted, and tears fell one by one, not tears of fear, but of sweetness. She ran home to tell Echona. He lifted her up and spun her around like a child. He painted the spare room blue, bought a new mattress, even a baby cot. Every morning he knelt beside her belly to pray, "God, protect our little one. Let this joy stay." Blessing bought baby clothes, tiny socks, a red blanket. At 6 months, her belly swelled like a drum full of rain. At 7 months, one morning, the blood came. She screamed. Echona rushed her to the hospital. Doctors and nurses ran, but it was too late. The baby was gone. The sky outside turned black. Even the sun seemed to refuse to shine. They brought her home in silence. Blessing lay behind the house, her wrapper stained, her hands clutching her stomach. She did not cry aloud, but her chest shook like thunder with no sound. Then she heard soft footsteps. Mama Nena. She sat beside her, wordless. She didn't touch her, didn't say sorry. She only whispered, "Please, come with me." Blessing blinked, then nodded. Not because she believed, but because she was too tired to fight anymore. They traveled to Achi, a small forest community on the border of Oli. The herbalist's hut sat deep inside the bush, surrounded by trees that refused to sway with the wind. The man was old but not frail. His eyes were clear, his hands steady. He listened quietly to Blessing's story from beginning to end without interrupting. At last, he stood, reached for a leather pouch, and pulled out 3 white cowrie necklaces. Blessing frowned. 3? He held them in his palm like eggs. Your womb has been rejected by the world, he said. Blessing gasped, her hand flying to her belly. But not by spirits, he added. She glanced at Mama Nena. The old woman remained silent. The herbalist placed the necklaces in Blessing's hand. Next time you carry life, say nothing, not even to your husband. Wear red wrapper, red plates, red bed sheets, red candle. And when the babies come, dress them in red every day. Place these on their necks. Never remove them, not when they cry, not when they sleep. Never. Blessing's voice trembled. Babies? You mean child? The man's calm eyes met hers. I said what I said. The forest around them did not move, not even a leaf. The meeting was over. That night, Blessing placed the cowries under her pillow. Her eyes stayed wide open in the dark. She did not pray. She only waited. 2 moons later, her cycle stopped. Blessing stood before the small mirror, counting the days with her fingers. Her hand touched her belly flat, but not empty. She was pregnant again. She told no one, not even Echona. When he asked if she was okay, she only smiled and said, I'm fine. At 3 moons, her back ached and she walked slower. At 4, she went to the clinic alone. The nurse rubbed jelly on her belly, moved the machine, and then gasped. Madam, you are carrying more than 1. Blessing blinked. Twins? The nurse looked again. No, triplets. Blessing's breath caught. Tears fell, slow and sweet like honey. She laughed and cried at the same time. The nurse was confused, but Blessing didn't care. She remembered the herbalist's words. No noise, no announcement, just red. She went home and quietly transformed her world. Red wrappers, red nightgowns, red bed sheets, red plates, red candles. Even her sponge and toothbrush were red. Each night she prayed beside her bed in red. Each morning she thanked the spirits with red powder on her palm. At 7 months, her water broke. The hospital was far, but the babies would not wait. In the night, with Mama Nena and a young nurse by her side, she gave birth. 1 cry, then another, then a third. 3 girls, same face, same wide eyes, same small mouth. Their cries fell like rain on a zinc roof. Blessing held them all at once, her arms shaking, her body weak, her eyes bright with fire and water. She whispered their names, Favor, Amarachi, Nancy. She tied red beads on their wrists, slipped red socks on their feet, and placed the white cowrie on each of their necks. From that moment, they wore red every day and night like skin, like breath, like secrets. The town didn't understand. They only whispered, Why always red? Is it charm? Did she make a vow in the forest? Some laughed, some shook their heads. Others crossed the road when they saw the girls. But the triplets held hands. Wherever they went, one left, one right, one in the middle, like 3 red flowers growing from the same stem. They wore red to school, to church, to weddings, to funerals, always red. Around their necks, the cowries gleamed like moons. As they grew, the questions grew with them. Teachers told Blessing, maybe try white for sports day. She shook her head. My children wear red. The girls began to ask too. Mama, why must we always wear red? Favor would whisper. When the time comes, you will know, Blessing replied. Amarachi begged once, can I at least wear pink? Just small pink. Blessing didn't even turn her head. When the time comes. Nancy tried to joke. Mama, what if red finishes in the market? Will we walk naked? Blessing's eyes silenced her. And so, They waited. But life does not wait. Favor got a job interview in the city at a multinational firm. She wore her best red dress. At the desk, the receptionist said, "You can't go in with that necklace. Dress code." Favor explained, "It's part of me." But they turned her away. She came home in tears. Nancy, the artist, was invited to an international showcase. She painted all night, but on the day of the exhibition, whispers filled the hall. In our culture, red with cowrie is burial color. It's offensive. They removed her name from the list. She sat by the river that night, staring at the moon. Then came Amarachi, the soft-hearted one. She fell in love with Kofi, a gentle Ghanaian boy. They dreamed of marriage, of freedom. But one evening he asked, "Why do you always wear red and that shell?" "It's how I was raised," she murmured. "You're beautiful," he said, "but people talk. If we're serious, maybe it's time to let it go." That night, Amarachi couldn't sleep. She whispered to the ceiling, "Mama, when is the time?" But the house stayed silent. The next morning, she reached into her drawer and pulled out a navy blue dress she had hidden years ago. She took off the red dress, removed the cowrie. Her neck felt light, her heart raced. She twirled before the mirror and whispered, "So, this is freedom." She stepped outside. 10 steps later, her legs buckled. Her body shook like a leaf in storm. She collapsed. Neighbors screamed. At the hospital, doctors found nothing. "Medically, she's fine," one whispered. "But something is pulling her away." Favor and Nancy rushed in, weeping. But before their eyes, the machine flatlined. Amarachi was gone. Nancy fell to the floor. Favor screamed. Nancy turned away. Blessing stood still, her eyes on her daughter's face. "You're free now," she whispered. Her daughter stared at her in shock. "Mama, what are you saying?" Favor demanded. Blessing's voice was steady. "The herbalist told me one of you would be the first to remove the necklace. The first to stop the red. That one would die. But in dying, she would break the bond and set the others free." The sisters stood frozen. "So she was the sacrifice," Favor whispered. "We lost her to gain freedom," Nancy sobbed. Blessing nodded, tears finally slipping down her cheeks. They buried Amarachi the next day. From then on, the red dresses disappeared. The cowries were locked in a wooden box at the foot of Blessing's bed. Favor began to wear jeans. Nancy dyed her hair golden brown. Life returned slowly, but the scar of Amarachi's death never healed. Each year, on the day she died, they wore red from head to toe, not as a curse, but as remembrance. Remembrance of the sister who paid the price. Remembrance of the freedom bought with blood.